Well, I think anybody who is a caregiver for a loved one or a family member knows how difficult it is when it gets to that point that the family can't do it themselves. So by the time I got to that point, my mother she was 88 years old at the time, had severe dementia, had developed Alzheimer's. And we were on 24/7, and the family got weary, and it was very difficult because you want to do it in your home, or at least in a home-like environment. So what I did is I started to search, and I went to everywhere in Albuquerque. I went everywhere, I visited everywhere, I reviewed everywhere. And I called one of the top people that's referred in our area, and I'm going to be very honest, I couldn't afford it. And so she referred me to you, Vince. And that very same day when I called you, you could very well, I think the thing about at New Life that you work with the families, and you saw a need for the caregiver, not only the patient, and you immediately had me come and meet you at the home where you had an availability. It was beautiful. And I saw that you only took 5 residents. And that was amazing to me because I had reviewed homes where they had 20, 30 people. I mean, it was like, to be honest, like a zoo. And it was very disheartening to think about putting a loved one there. And in discussing with you, I found out that legally you could have more residents, but because of your integrity and your calling that you have to care for these people and their families, you limit it personally to 5 because you feel that's a comfortable home environment for these people. So I came over, I met you that day. You understood where I was coming from and how difficult this was for me, and you mentored and ministered to me, and you came over to my home and became friends with my mother. And at the worst point of our caregiving, and I was having a breakdown, I came into the kitchen, and then I went back to the bedroom, and you and my mother were dancing, and she was laughing, and you had an immediate connection with her. And I could see that you actually knew how to deal, and you had a special way of dealing with these people. But not just the elderly or the geriatric patient, but also with the family. And that is something I didn't get anywhere else, is the treatment that you gave to the family. So on the very first day when I had to take my mother, it was so strange to me because she got up and got dressed up that day, and not realizing she was going to be, transferred to assisted living. So she was dressed up. I come into the kitchen, we have coffee, and I bring her over to the house, and you greet us, and we go in and I visit with her. And it's like taking your child to school for the first day. You can relate it to that, but it's even worse because the role reversal, that now you've become the parent and they're the child, in a sense. And I remember finally you just kind of prompted me that it was time to go, that I had to leave. And I don't want to cry, but I walked out the front door, and I turned around and looked at you, and you smiled at me, and you slammed the door in my face. And I knew at that moment I had to make a decision. Either I tried this, I left, or I took my mother and brought her back home, which it had come to the point we couldn't do it at home. It was a 24/7. We were exhausted. And so I'm crying and I'm driving away, and it wasn't 5 minutes later you called me and you began to talk to me, and you called me every day. You sent me pictures of my mother every day via email. You kept in touch, gave me good report. And eventually when I was introduced back into the situation after she had adapted, what I really liked is that at New Life, I didn't have to tell you I was coming. The staff there wore street clothes. My mother actually thought they were her help there at the home that she had hired. And it was a very family-oriented. I got to be friends with the family members of other clients there at the house. And it was a very family-oriented home environment, not institutional at all, which was what I was looking for. But so it worked out very well. You had my mother for a year, and when she passed away, I visited her all the time. I had gone 3 days without seeing her because I was doing a baby shower for my daughter, and I was tired, and I said, I gotta go. And that morning I was pulling out of my driveway on June 10th, and you called me and said that she had passed. And you came and picked me up and drove me over there. And I was able to process that. And you actually helped me with the funeral arrangements. You were actually here. My mother was 89 years old. There weren't many friends or family. You were here and actually helped me more than my biological family at the time, because I think you just have a gift. But once again, I think what was such a blessing with you, Vince, is that you not only cared for my mother, you see the need in the family members to be cared for. And so I appreciate that, Vince. And my sister to this day, who lives out of state, gives me kudos for finding new life. So thank you, Vince.